Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Alright, hello everyone, Cade from the Legends Library here, and bringing you today a video, our first video on the channel, since our Rise of Skywalker review back in January, so it's been about 4 months, and so before I get into the main topic of the video, I would just like to give a little update on the channel. Obviously, we have a very, very small subscribers, so I would like to say to anyone watching the video, thank you for subscribing and staying subscribed. Because Tristan and I both have very busy schedules. We don't live in the same state, so just along with both of our schedules, having to work around that to one, read the content, specifically the next part of the Legacy Comics review, and then also find a time to go back and skim through it again to take notes, as well as then after that, then trying to find the time that works for both of us to set aside a few hours to actually just sit and record the reviews. It's a process. When you have, two adults who are both very busy, it becomes very, very hard to try and plan this stuff out. With that little update, we'll get into the main topic of today's video. I don't plan on it being very long, but it's a video that I've had kind of in the woodworks for a while. And that is the practice of gatekeeping and why it is so very detrimental to just anything, really, not just Star Wars, but you could do it for anything, and I've seen it done for anything. I'm involved on several different online forums for Star Wars and several other things as well, and the amount of gatekeeping that I see is just, wow, just gross. People saying, well, you can't be a fan if you don't like XYZ, you're not a fan if this, that, this. And specifically, I do see it a lot in Star Wars, especially because there is a Legends universe and then the canon universe. And you get way too many people on both sides, but I will be 100% honest. From what I have seen, a lot more people who are expanded universe fans are kind of these gatekeepers of trying to get into Star Wars. And they will kind of see people who like the new movies and say, well, no, you don't like Star Wars. The Star Wars is the EU. And I'm not, obviously, of course, I'm a huge fan of the expanded universe, and I don't care what people like. And that should be just everyone's take on it, really. But the problem is when people take that seriously. And they say things like, well, if you like the expanded universe, you're not a Star Wars fan. Or on the contrary, if you like episode 7, 8, and 9, you're not a Star Wars fan. If you don't like this, you're not a Star Wars fan. And I'm kind of just a little bit sick of seeing it. Because one, especially on the part of fans of the expanded universe, it hurts us as fans more than anything, because the expanded universe is not nearly as popular as the sequel trilogy. And what I mean by that is not as many people are buying, say, the Legends Epic Collection that are buying a ticket to go see a movie. The expanded universe is very much for like the hardcore, the very into fan. It's not for everyone, but when all of a sudden you make it to where it's only for these, air quotes, hardcore fans, whatever you want to call it, that's where you get into problems, because then you're not getting any new fans, because they're seeing all these people on forums saying, well, if you like XYZ, you can't be a real fan. And then they figure, well, I don't want to get into this then, if this community is just going to outright reject me, because obviously the people who do that are just a vocal minority. The majority of people who read the expanded universe are just like myself. They might not like the new stuff that's coming out, or they might disagree with what the movies do in regards to the lore of the universe. But at the end of the day, they don't really care because people are going to like what they're going to like no matter what. And then we also get to the problem of criticism and people taking criticism very poorly, I guess, especially when it comes to a franchise that they don't own and dying on the hill of defending it. So, for example, when people say that the expanded universe is bad, I've seen so many people make series and series of videos, which is great because then it's showing people, the good parts of it. But there are bad things in the expanded universe, just like there are bad things in canon. There are good things in canon too. Um, I just personally, for me, it's just not for me. Just like personally for me, there's stuff in the expanded universe in Legends that isn't for me, and I don't let that just sit and simmer and stew. And when people criticize this timeline of a fictional universe that I like, um, it doesn't really get to me unless they start obviously doing the whole misinformation thing and blah blah blah. Then yeah, it can get a little annoying, and yeah, I might tell them, hey, you're wrong. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you're not going to change anyone's mind by being a jerk or by being a dick or any of that or just screaming at them in all caps when you're typing your reply. You're not changing anyone's mind by gatekeeping. You're only keeping new people away from getting into this subject that you really like. And you could do the same thing. I've seen videos posted on how canon is the only thing that matters. If it's not canon, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's fine. That's your viewpoint, but that's the other thing is people get too latched onto what is canon as opposed to what they enjoy. So, for example, I might really like, just say, for example, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And there are people out there, and I've interacted with them, who will say, no, it doesn't matter because it's not canon. It's part of the expanded universe. It's not canon anymore. It doesn't matter. Well, you've never even played it or done anything. And, putting labels on stuff like this and just labels on things of you being a fan is when it starts to just hurt everything as a whole. And then you get these misrepresentations like people posting on these online forums that, oh, well, Legends fans, they're all just, they're all toxic fans and blah, blah, blah. That's where you get these misconceptions from. And that's why expanded universe fans get kind of lumped in with these, and I hate the term. I think it's way too much of a buzzword at this point. But these, air quotes, toxic fans, which, yeah, they're jerks, they're dicks, and I don't want to be associated with them. But because they then see that, and then they see just regular plain Jane Legends fans sitting there and gatekeeping and saying, well, I wish that the movies were never canon and that this never happened in XYZ and they did this in XYZ. It's just, after a while, it starts to show on the entire fan base. And then you have to do, and I'm by no means saying I'm probably the smallest Star Wars channel on YouTube. Tristan and I are, but then you have channels that have to do damage control for this by saying, hey, no, this is a small group of people who are just very loud. So, but then it becomes very, very hard to see when you have so many channels just sitting there and spouting off what it means to be a Star Wars fan and what is and isn't acceptable media. At the end of the day, if you take anything away from this video, because I believe I've said it a few times, it is that you need to like what you like and just don't be a dick about it. At the end of the day, if someone likes canon and they just aren't interested at all in the expanded universe because for whatever reason, and it might be a silly reason, like, well, the expanded universe isn't canon, so I don't like it. But it could be a more valid reason that they don't want to. It's a big reason why I haven't gotten into a lot of the canon comics and novels because, well, it's just not tied to the universe that I know and that I've read. So I'm not really interested in starting to explore this universe based on what I've seen. For me, obviously, it's the movies. I'm just not interested in exploring the universe set up by those or that leads into them. And then, vice versa. You might have someone who maybe they have read a couple Legends novels or played some video games, and they think, no, this stuff just isn't for me. It doesn't make you any more of a better fan because you like the expanded universe. It doesn't make you any more of a big fan because you like canon. At the end of the day, just like what you like, because especially for expanded universe fans, it's becoming increasingly difficult to find a place where I'm not always just seeing negativity and just biases on both sides. And that's, like I said, that's the takeaway of this video, is that sometimes you just gotta agree to disagree. So guys, that was my short little rambling video on gatekeeping and why I hate it so much. I'd like to say, I might be completely wrong and misrepresenting, but honestly, when I go online on places, I do see too many fans of the expanded universe sitting there and saying, all this stuff about how they hate everything, and if it's not Legends, it doesn't exist, and all that stuff. And I'm guilty. Like, I'll say stuff like that, like as like a joke, like when I'm talking with people I know. But like, really, I just don't care what other people like. If, like I said earlier, if I see someone who enjoys Force Awakens and Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, I don't care. Like, it doesn't get my blood boiling. And if you are one of those people that it does bother you, just let it go, man. Like, they're not hurting anyone. They're not taking away your passion for the novels and the comics and everything by liking something. If you want to sit there and attack them and go on videos about the new canon saying, well, this shouldn't be canon and it should still be the expanded universe, you're not convincing anyone, and you're making us all look like jerks. You're making us all look like dicks. And if that's going to be the kind of person that you want to be, then go ahead and do it. But please stop associating with people who just really like the expanded universe, because I'm sick of being lumped in with people who take themselves a little bit too seriously. So if that last little part is a little harsh, I'm very sorry, but that is my genuine feelings on people who kind of act that way. And I'll reiterate again, I'm a giant fan of the expanded universe. I've been reading it since I was 5 or 6 years old, and I'm 24 years old now. I listen to Star Wars audiobooks while I'm at the gym working out, while I'm driving, and while I'm at work. So, if you want to go ahead and you want to call me, a poser or a fake fan, because I'm not going to sit and die on the hill of what people like, then I'm sorry, but if this is your first video on the channel, this channel probably isn't going to be for you. So with that, a little bit of rambling ending. This was all just, I had some bullet points up in front of me on my laptop here to hit, but a lot of this stuff was just off the cuff, and it was kind of just my personal feelings because, like I said, I'm just sick of seeing gatekeeping. So guys, with that, we will see you in the next video, hopefully very soon.